Hey, listeners, ready to transform your sleep? Cozy Earth is all about lasting luxury and comfort. Their bamboo sheets have been called the world's softest sheets, cooling, moisture wicking, and unbelievably soft. And I can tell you they get better with every wash. And they have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty.
But it doesn't stop there. They have bath, sleepwear, loungewears, and even skincare. Free shipping on orders of $50 or more.
Make sure you go to cozyearth.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout to save 21% off. You can find all of this in the show notes. Welcome to the podcast. I'm William.
And I'm Kat,
And that makes this Info on the Go.
feeding your curiosity wherever you go.
Think about your morning, okay? Just your morning, not any other part of the day, before you even walk out the door. How many products of Procter and Gamble or P&G did you use? Just think about that just for a minute, just in the morning.
So, did you brush your teeth? Did you use deodorant? I hope so for both of those.
Yes.
Did you have to shave this morning? These are all products that P&G make.
This is just a little small challenge for our listeners out there. Think about the last time you used toothpaste, shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, laundry detergent, dish soap, paper towels, razors, batteries, maybe diapers. Did you know that many of these products came from, well, Procter and Gamble?
Just one company.
Just one company. I say let's dig into the history of this one company. What do you think?
Sounds good. Now, before we can understand how Procter and Gamble became one of the most successful companies in history, we have to travel back to an America that would feel almost unrecognizable today.
Imagine waking up in the year 1830. There are no alarm clocks, no light switches, definitely no hot showers, and no modern appliances. There's no electricity at all. Your day begins with the sunrise. And once darkness arrives, much of your work, well, it comes to an end. Life moved at a pace of nature, and everyday tasks that we consider simple today often required hours of physical effort.
America was still a young nation with a population of fewer than 13 million people, and most Americans lived on farms or in small communities, and even the nation's growing cities looked nothing like the clean, organized places that we know today.
I feel like I'm talking stuffed up. Do I sound that way?
A little bit.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I do believe I'm a little under the weather. Walking through an early 19th century city, well, it could be a messy experience. Streets were usually unpaved, turning into deep mud after rain and clouds of dust during dry weather. Horses pulled wagons through the streets, leaving behind large amounts of waste every day. Garbage collection was limited. Household trash, it usually ended up in the streets, vacant lots, or nearby waterways. Could you imagine all that waste from the horse drawn carts in those cities in the early days? Let's let let's just move on.
Sanitation was a major challenge. Most cities did not have modern sewer systems, and many families depended on wells, rivers, or hand pumps for their water supply. And at the time, people did not understand that bacteria and viruses cause disease. The germ theory of illness would not become widely accepted until decades later. So many people believed diseases spread through contaminated air or what they called bad air,
Miasma.
miasma.
Okay. Because of these conditions, outbreaks of diseases like cholera, typhoid fever, dysentery, and smallpox, well, they were common. Cholera was especially feared because a person could appear healthy one day and become seriously ill within hours. Entire communities, well, they could be devastated with diseases as they move quickly through crowded towns and cities.
Daily life was also very different when it came to personal cleanliness. Most homes had no indoor plumbing, no running water, no bathrooms, and water had to be carried by hand from wells, pumps, or nearby streams. Heating enough water for a bath required building a fire, warming large containers, and there's a process that took time and effort because bathing required so much preparation. People simply did not bathe as frequently as we do today.
So when the sun went down, another challenge began. Without electricity, every evening, well, it depended on a fire. Could you imagine those fires in the Georgia heat in the
Oof,
summer? Mm.
oof.
Families, they really relied on these fireplaces, oil lamps, and candles just for light. A candle was not just a household item, it was a necessity. It allowed people to cook, read, sew, write letters, with those quill pens, and continue working after sunset. Saw how I threw that in there.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
called stitching.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I just made that up.
Oh. Most families used tallow candles, which were made from rendered animal fat. Not every animal can you get tallow from, though. But anyway, they were inexpensive and widely available, but they were far from perfect. Tallow candles burned unevenly, produced smoke, dripped grease, and often filled homes with an unpleasant smell.
While wealthier families, they could afford beeswax candles, which burned cleaner and brighter, but they were too expensive for, well, the common folk. Since candles were valuable, families, well, they carefully controlled how they used them. Many people planned their evenings around saving candlelight. And during the winter months, some simply went to bed earlier because extending the day meant using more fuel.
Candles also created a serious danger. A single flame knocked over by accident could quickly turn into a devastating fire. Many buildings were made from wood, and firefighting resources were well limited, meaning a small household accident could destroy entire neighborhoods.
Soap was another essential product, but obtaining it just wasn't easy. Today, if you run out of soap, you simply drive down to your store and or you could just order it online. But in the 1800s, many families had to make their own soap.
The process was difficult and time consuming. Soap was created by mixing animal fat with lye, a powerful substance made by pouring water through hardwood ashes. Families boiled this mixture in large iron kettles over open fires, stirring it for hours while trying to create the right balance.
There was really no scientific formula, no laboratory testing, and definitely no quality standards. If too much lye was added, well, the soap could irritate or burn the skin. If too little was used, well, the soap remained greasy or ineffective.
Because making soap required a large supply of animal fat and many hours of labor, most families only made it once or twice a year, and every batch could be different, and the quality was never guaranteed. Yet, soap was not just about cleanliness. It was necessary for washing clothes, cleaning homes, and helping families protect themselves at a time when disease was everywhere.
So, as America expanded westward, one city became especially important for the future of soap and candle manufacturing, and that city was Cincinnati, Ohio. So during the early 1800s, Cincinnati earned the nickname Porkopolis.
Porkopolis.
Porkopolis, okay, because it had become America's leading pork processing center. Every year, hundreds of thousands of hogs, well, they were brought into the city from surrounding farms to be processed and shipped throughout the country. And this booming industry created something incredibly valuable: animal fat.
While the meat was sold for food, the leftover fat was rendered into tallow, the key ingredient used to make candles and soap. Now, what might have been considered waste became the foundation of growing manufacturing industry. Cincinnati also had another major advantage, the Ohio River. Before railroads connected the nation, rivers served as America's highways. Steamboats carried raw materials into the city and transported finished products to communities throughout the expanding country. Compared to rough dirt roads, river transportation was faster, cheaper, and more reliable.
The city was also attracting immigrants from Europe, including skilled craftsmen who brought valuable trades determination and a desire to build a new life. Cincinnati had everything a growing city needed: raw materials, transportation, workers, and customers. It was the perfect location for a company built around two basic necessities: soap and candles.
And in 1837, two immigrants arrived in Cincinnati who would change business history forever. One was an English candle maker named William Procter, and the other was an Irish soap maker named James Gamble. Together, they'd create a small partnership that began with simple household products and eventually grew into one of the most recognizable companies in the world. Their incredible story was just beginning.
Two immigrants, one partnership, and this is the story of Procter and Gamble. At its heart, so long before the company began as a global household name, it began with two men who crossed the Atlantic in search of something millions of immigrants have sought throughout history: a chance to build a better life.
During the early 1800s, America was growing rapidly. The nation was expanding westward, new towns were becoming cities, and opportunities seemed endless compared to the economic hardships many people faced in Europe. England was deep into the Industrial Revolution, where factories were replacing skilled craftsmen and changing traditional trades forever. Ireland struggled with economic instability even before the Great Famine of the 1840s. So, for many families, America represented hope, a place where hard work and determination could lead to success regardless of where you were born.
Many immigrants, well, they didn't arrive with great wealth, but they did bring something just as valuable: skills. Blacksmiths, carpenters, bankers, coopers, soap makers, candle makers, they all found growing demand in America's expanding communities. Cities like Cincinnati, Ohio, they were booming. Located along the Ohio River, Cincinnati had become one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And well, it offered craftsmen access to customers, transportation, and raw materials. It was exactly the kind of place where a person with ambition, they could just start over.
One of those immigrants was William Procter. He was born in Hertfordshire, England in 1801 and learned the trade of candle making from his father. Candle making was an important profession. Before electricity, nearly every home, church, business, and government building depended on candles for light. A skilled candle maker could expect steady work, but life had other plans for William. Before leaving England, he experienced a heartbreaking personal tragedy. His first wife, Martha, died from cholera, and several members of his family also passed away. Faced with unimaginable loss, Procter decided to leave England behind and begin a new chapter in America.
How hard would that be?
It sounds super sad.
Yeah, it really does.
So he arrived in the U.S. in the early 1830s with little more than his trade and his determination. Like so many other immigrants, he had no guarantee of success. He simply believed that America offered opportunities that no longer existed at home. And after traveling west, he eventually settled in Cincinnati, where he opened a small candle making business.
And around the same time, another immigrant was making a similar journey. James Gamble was born in a county, Fermanagh, Ireland, in 1803. His family immigrated into the United States when he was still a teenager, and during their journey west through Pennsylvania, he became seriously ill with a fever severe enough that his family decided to stop traveling for a time to allow him to recover. That unexpected illness changed the course of his life. Had he remained healthy, his family might have continued further west, and history could have unfolded very differently. Recovering, James, he apprenticed as a soap maker, learning a trade that required patience, chemistry, and careful craftsmanship. Because soap making was demanding work, but it was also essential. Every household needed soap, and skilled soap makers were always in demand. Eventually, James and his family, well, they would also settle in Cincinnati, where the city's thriving pork industry provided an abundant supply of animal fat, the primary ingredient in soap. At this point, William Procter and James Gamble were competitors without even realizing it. One made candles, the other made soap. Their business relied on many of the same raw materials, and both served the same growing community.
Then something happened that neither man could have predicted. Both William Procter and James Gamble fell in love with daughters of the same family. William married Olivia Norris, and James married her sister, Elizabeth Norris. And suddenly, the two businessmen weren't just neighbors in the same city, they were brothers in law.
Watching his two son in laws compete for similar resources, well, the father in law, Alexander Norris, he saw an opportunity that they just didn't see. Rather than operating separately, why not combine their talents? And according to company history, Norris offered a simple but remarkably insightful suggestion. Why don't you just become business partners?
Now, sometimes history changes because of a bold invention or a groundbreaking discovery, and other times it changes because someone offers a simple piece of practical advice. Now, William Procter and James Gamble, they listened.
And on October 31st, 1837, they officially formed Procter and Gamble. Each invested just over $3,500 in the new company. And this was a substantial amount at the time, representing years of savings and hard work. And together they began producing candles and soap in a modest manufacturing operation in Cincinnati. Their products, they weren't flashy or revolutionary. They made everyday essentials that people needed regardless of the economy: soap to clean and candles to provide light.
Their earliest customers were local families, merchants, farmers, hotels, riverboats traveling the Ohio River, and businesses throughout the growing city. Success didn't come overnight. Every sale had to be earned through quality workmanship, fair prices, and dependable service. Their reputation grew one satisfied customer at a time.
Neither man could have imagined that this small partnership would one day become, well, a company whose products would be found in billions. And that's right, billions with a B. Homes across more than 180 countries. They weren't trying to build a global empire. They were just simply trying to make an honest living. But as promising as their new partnership seemed, fate had one more challenge waiting for them. They launched their business in 1837, the very same year that America was plunged into one of the worst financial crises in its history. Unfortunately, their timing couldn't have been much worse.
Mm. If William Procter and James Gamble had been looking for the perfect time to launch a new business, October of 1837 would have been near the bottom of the list. Just months after they officially formed their partnership, the United States was thrown into one of the worst financial disasters in its young history, a crisis known as the Panic of 1837. It was America's first major economic depression, and for countless businesses, it proved fatal before they ever had a chance to succeed.
The causes of the panic were complex. Years of cautious land buying had driven prices to unsustainable levels. Banks had issued loans freely, often with little financial backing, creating, well, an unusual economy built on easy credit. We've seen that before. Then came a series of events that shattered confidence. President Andrew Jackson had dismantled the Second Bank of the United States several years earlier, changing the nation's financial system, and his administration issued the Specie Circular in 1836. And this really required many public land purchases to be made with gold or silver instead of paper money. At the same time, falling cotton prices and tightening credit from British banks added even more pressure, and the result was financial chaos.
Ugh. Banks began to fail across the country. Many simply ran out of money after frightened customers rushed to withdraw their savings. Businesses that depended on loans suddenly found credit unavailable. Factories closed, merchants declared bankruptcy, construction projects stopped, and unemployment skyrocketed. Historians estimate that hundreds of banks suspended payments and thousands of businesses failed during the depression that followed. The economic downturn lasted for several years, leaving families struggling simply to survive. Imagine opening a brand new business just as your customers lose their jobs. Banks stop lending money, and the economy grinds to a halt. That's exactly the situation William Procter and James Gamble faced.
Yet somehow their young company survived. Part of the reason was the nature of the products they sold. During hard times, people might postpone buying furniture or new clothing, but they still needed soap to wash and they needed candles to light their homes. These weren't luxury items, they were everyday necessities. Even during an economic crisis, people couldn't simply stop using them. But selling necessities alone, it really wasn't enough.
From the beginning, Procter and Gamble focused on something that would become one of the company's defining principles: quality and consistency. In the early 19th century, many products varied from one batch to another. A bar of soap purchased one week might be completely different from one bought the following month. Now, Procter and Gamble worked hard to ensure their products were dependable. Customers knew what they were getting every time they made a purchase, and that consistency really built trust.
So the two founders also earned a reputation for honest business practices. They treated suppliers fairly, honored their commitments, and focused on long term relationships instead of quick profits. In a time when failed businesses were everywhere and financial uncertainty dominated daily life, trust became one of their greatest assets.
Satisfied customers returned again and again. Word spread through Cincinnati and surrounding communities that Procter and Gamble produced reliable products at fair prices. Slowly the business grew, though not flashy advertising or dramatic expansion, but one customer at a time.
And over the next 2 decades, America itself would, well, it would start to recover and expand. Railroads stretched across the country. Cities grew larger. Industries accelerated. Then in 1861, another national crisis erupted, one that would unexpectedly transform Procter and Gamble forever.
The American Civil War divided the nation, but it also created enormous demand for essential supplies. The Union Army needed food, uniforms, medical equipment, candles, and soap for hundreds of thousands of soldiers living in camps across the North and South.
So Procter and Gamble, they secured contracts to supply the Union Army with soap and candles. And this decision, well, it dramatically increased production. And suddenly, the small Cincinnati manufacturer that was producing goods on a scale it had never, ever imagined. Its factories worked to meet military demand, and the company gained valuable experience managing large operations and maintaining consistent quality under pressure. The Civil War also introduced the company's products to an entirely new audience.
Hundreds of thousands of Union soldiers used Procter and Gamble's soap and candles throughout the war. When peace returned in 1865, those soldiers went home to nearly every corner of the country. They remembered the products they had relied on during years of military service, and many continued buying them for their families. In many ways, the war became an unexpected national marketing campaign. Long before television commercials or social media, Procter and Gamble had earned widespread brand recognition simply because soldiers trusted the products they'd used every day. And by the late 19th century, the company had become far more than a local soap and candle maker. Yet another innovation was about to set it apart, not in manufacturing, but in the way it treated its employees.
In 1887, William Cooper Procter, the grandson of founder William Procter, introduced one of the nation's earliest employment profit sharing programs. And this was at a time when factory workers were often viewed as little more than laborers. This was a remarkably progressive idea, and the concept was simple but powerful. If employees helped the company succeed, they would share in that success. Eligible workers received a portion of the company's profits, giving them a direct financial stake in how well the business performed.
Now, the results were significant. Employees became more loyal to the company, turnover declined, and workers had greater incentive to produce high quality products and suggest improvements. Rather than constantly hiring and training new employees, Procter and Gamble developed an experienced workforce that took pride in its work. The profit sharing plan became a model that, under other business, would eventually study and, in some cases, adopt.
It also reflected a broader philosophy that would help define the company's future. Success wasn't built solely on products, it was built on people. By surviving a devastating financial panic and expanding during the Civil War, earning the trust of customers across the nation, it really introduced forward-thinking ideas that about employee ownership. Procter and Gamble, well, they had accomplished something extraordinary. The company was no longer simply surviving, it was preparing to lead. As America entered the Industrial Revolution, and scientific discovery began transforming manufacturing, Procter and Gamble, it was ready for the next breakthrough.
By the late 1800s, Procter and Gamble had survived financial disaster, expanded during the Civil War, and earned a reputation for producing dependable soap and candles. But the company's leaders understood something really important. Simply making a good product wasn't enough. If they wanted to stay ahead of growing competition, they needed to innovate. They needed to find better ways to make products, improve quality, and solve problems that customers hadn't even realized could be solved. This really marked a turning point in the company's history.
Instead of relying solely on traditional craftsmanship passed down through apprenticeship, Procter and Gamble began embracing something that was transforming industries around the world: science. The company invested in laboratories, hired chemists, and began applying scientific principles to everyday household products. Today, that might sound obvious, but at the time it was revolutionary. Many manufacturers still relied on experience, intuition, and trial and error. Procter and Gamble, they believed chemistry, well, it could make products safer, more effective, and more consistent.
Every ingredient was studied, every manufacturing process was refined. Products were tested repeatedly before reaching customers. The goal wasn't simply to make soap, it was to make the best soap possible every time. The focus on scientific research helped eliminate one of the biggest problems consumers faced during the 19th century: inconsistency. One batch of soap might clean well, while another from a different manufacturer barely worked at all. By carefully controlling ingredients and manufacturing methods, Procter and Gamble could promise customers that every bar would perform the same way.
The company also became interested in something else that was relatively new: understanding the customer. Instead of assuming what people wanted, Procter and Gamble began gathering feedback and studying consumer preferences. Over time, this evolved into one of the world's earliest examples of consumer research. The company asked questions, observed buying habits, and continuously improved products based on the feedback. And today, nearly every major consumer product company follows this approach. But Procter and Gamble, it helped pioneer it in more than a century ago.
Then came one of the most famous stories in American business history: the story of Ivory Soap. If you've ever heard the phrase, it floats, you've heard part of the legend. Now, according to the traditional story, sometime in the late 1870s, an employee accidentally left a soap mixing machine running longer than intended while taking a lunch break. As the machine continued to churn, it whipped tiny air bubbles into the soap mixture. Normally, soap is denser than water and sinks, but because this batch contained millions of microscopic air pockets, the finished bars floated. Now, at first, the mistake might have seemed like a disaster, but when customers began receiving the floating bars, something unexpected happened.
They loved it. People discovered that floating soap was easier to find in a bathtub, wash basin. Instead of disappearing beneath cloudy water, it floated and it was easier to grab. What could have been viewed as a manufacturing error, well, it suddenly became a unique selling point. But here's where the story really gets interesting.
Modern historians aren't entirely convinced the famous accident happened exactly that way. Some researchers believe the tale may have been exaggerated or even created later as a memorable marketing story. Others suggest that while the floating soap was real, the employee forgot the mixture story may have grown more colorful over time.
Wait a minute, you're saying sensationalized journalism?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Whether it was a happy accident, like Bob Ross would say, or a carefully refined legend. So I did that.
Mhm.
One fact is undeniable. Ivory soap, well, it really does float, and consumers found it fascinating. So Procter& Gamble officially introduced ivory soap in 1879, and it quickly became one of the company's biggest successes. And the company didn't stop there. They backed ivory with one of the most memorable advertising slogans in American history.
99 and 44 100% pure. At first glance, it's oddly specific number. Why not simply say the soap was pure? Because precision builds trust. The claim was based on laboratory testing that showed ivory contained very few impurities compared to many competing soaps of the time. In an era where consumers often question the quality of manufactured goods, that level of scientific precision made a powerful impression. It suggested that this wasn't just another company making empty promises, they had measured it.
And today, we're surrounded by products that advertise percentages, laboratory results, and scientific claims. From toothpaste that fights cavities to detergents that remove, whatever stain you're looking for. But in the late 19th century, this type of evidence-based marketing, it was something new. And Procter and Gamble understood that consumers weren't simply buying soap, they were buying confidence.
Innovation extended beyond the product itself. During much of the 19th century, many goods were sold in plain wrappers or bulk containers with little indication of who made them. If a customer liked a product, they often had no easy way to identify it the next time they went shopping.
Imagine Coke, Pepsi, and Mountain Dew wait, Coke, Pepsi, and RC Cola all in the same packaging. And
Right.
I like Coke, you like Coke,
Pepsi?
but just imagine you're drinking like you're like, wow, this doesn't taste like it did the other day. I mean, granted, those packagings had already figured out they branded, right? But I just couldn't imagine like a gum or ketchup, mayonnaise. I think we've talked about it. Mayonnaise is not the same.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just sitting there thinking like packaging is a big deal.
It is most definitely a big deal, especially in marketing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a rant there.
It's all good.
Okay.
Now, Procter and Gamble changed that by emphasizing uniform packaging and recognizable branding. Every package looked the same. Every bar of soap met the same standards. Customers could walk into a store hundreds of miles away and expect the same product they had purchased back home. This consistency helped build something incredibly valuable: consumer confidence.
Because people no longer had to wonder whether this batch would be different from the last one. They trusted the name on the package. As railroads expanded across America and transportation improved, well, Procter& and Gamble took advantage of a growing national distribution network. Instead of serving only Cincinnati and nearby communities, the company shipped products across the country. Families from New York to St. Louis, they could purchase the same reliable products, helping transform Procter& and Gamble from a regional manufacturer into a national brand. That I think that's a factoid.
Factoid. Now, by the end of the 19th century, Procter and Gamble had proven that science, quality, and consistency could create products people genuinely trusted. But the company's leaders soon realized another important lesson. Making great products wasn't enough. People had to know they existed, and the way Procter and Gamble solved that challenge would forever change not only the company, but the entire world of advertising.
And Kat, I say here, I need to go get a Coke.
I already got my Pepsi.
We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Ready to turn an ordinary day into an unforgettable adventure? Check out QR Hunter. It lets you create custom treasure hunts with reusable QR code tiles. You can personalize clues, puzzles, photo challenges. You can do it all in just a few minutes. It's perfect for birthday parties, family game nights, classrooms, parks, team building events, or if you just want to have family fun. The free QR Hunter app, it works with any smart device. The adventure, it never really ends. You can search for QR Hunter on Amazon, or you can simply click the link in the show notes. But let the adventure start today. Now that we're back. By the beginning of the 20th century, Procter & Gamble had built a reputation for producing high-quality products, but company leaders understood an important lesson that, well, still drives business today. Even the best product in the world, well, it's going to fail if people don't know that it's out there, which is why we want you to tell a friend about our podcast.
Yes, sharing is caring.
There you go.
At the time, advertising was still in its early stages. During the 1800s, most businesses relied on simple newspaper notices that listed what they sold and where customers could buy it. These advertisements were usually plain blocks of text with little creativity. Companies believed that if they made a good product, customers would eventually find it.
Procter & Gamble, well, they saw a different opportunity. The company realized advertising wasn't just about announcing a product. It was about creating a connection with the consumer. Instead of waiting for people to discover their soaps and household products, Procter & Gamble actively reached out to consumers and helped create something that would become the foundation for modern business, brand marketing.
As newspapers expanded across the country and more Americans became regular readers, Procter & Gamble began advertising beyond Cincinnati. The company placed ads in newspapers across multiple states, allowing products like Ivory soap to become recognized far beyond their original market.
Soon, magazines became another powerful tool. Unlike newspapers, magazines offered colorful illustrations and reached millions of households. Procter & Gamble, well, their advertisements did more than explain what a product did. They created a vision of a better life.
Ads showed clean homes, happy families, and satisfied customers. The message was not simply buy this soap, it was this product can make your daily life easier.
And at a time when photography was still developing, illustrations played a major role. Artists created detailed images that, well, they helped consumers imagine using the products in their own homes. These advertisements became an early form of storytelling, something that remains central to marketing today. Procter& Gamble also introduced another idea that seems kind of ordinary now, but was revolutionary at the time: product demonstrations.
Like a Kirby?
Kirby. We had one of those when I was a kid.
We had one too.
That thing weighed a ton.
It did, but it did so many things.
It really did do a lot of stuff.
I remember a dude coming to our house and my parents sent us off to go do whatever and they bought one for sure. $500 vacuum. Instead of simply telling customers that their products worked, the company showed them. Sales representatives demonstrated products in stores and public events, allowing people to see firsthand results. Watching a cleaning product remove a stain was much more convincing than reading a simple advertisement. The company also helped popularize another marketing tool that shoppers still use today: coupons.
While Procter& Gamble set the stage for everything, didn't he?
Indeed.
As we know, coupons offer customers a discount, encourage them to try a product they may have not purchased otherwise. Once people experience the quality for themselves, the hope was they would become loyal customers. Free samples work the same way. Rather than asking consumers to take a chance on an unfamiliar product, Procter and Gamble, well, they allowed their products to speak for themselves and earn the trust of the consumer. The company also became a pioneer in understanding consumer behavior.
Instead of guessing what people wanted, Procter and Gamble began asking questions, collecting feedback, and studying buying habits. What scents did customers prefer? What packaging caught their attention? What problems did families need solved? See a need, fill a need.
There you go. This focus on consumer research became one of the company's greatest strengths. Today, Surveys, focus groups, and product testings, well, they're standard practice across every industry. But Procter Gamble, it helped establish many of these ideas more than a century ago.
As the company created more brands, it also understood the importance of recognition. Memorable logos, characters, and mascots helped consumers quickly identify products and develop emotional connections with them. This helped create something incredibly valuable: brand loyalty.
And before national brands became common, well, customers often walked into a general store and simply asked for soap or household goods. The shopkeeper decided which products they would receive, but Procter& Gamble changed that relationship. Through consistent quality and memorable advertising, customers began asking for Procter& Gamble by name.
They didn't just want soap, they wanted Ivory. Later, they didn't just want laundry detergent, they wanted Tide. They didn't just want toothpaste, they wanted Crest. Consumers weren't only buying products, they were buying trust. Procter& Gamble understood something that modern marketers still study today. Familiarity creates confidence. When customers repeatedly see the same name, packaging, and message, they begin to believe that product is reliable.
Then came one of Procter& Gamble's most surprising contributions to American culture, the creation of the soap opera. That's a factoid.
Factoid.
Because during the 1930s, radio was America's favorite, form of entertainment. Families gathered around their radios to listen to music, comedy, news, and dramatic programs. But during the daytime, many men were at work while millions of women were managing households.
Procter and Gamble recognized an opportunity. Homemakers were often making purchasing decisions for their families, and daytime radio offered a direct way to reach them. Instead of simply buying commercial advertisements, Procter and Gamble began sponsoring entire radio dramas. These programs featured romance, family struggles, mystery, and dramatic cliffhangers that encouraged listeners to return every day.
Because many of these programs were sponsored by soap companies, they became known as soap operas.
Factoid.
This name remained when television became popular after World War II. Many of these dramas moved from radio to television, shows like Guiding Light and As the World Turns. They became cultural icons, and Procter& and Gamble became one of the most influential companies in daytime television.
The idea of companies blending entertainment with advertising continues today through sponsored content, branded entertainment, podcasts like this one, and digital media. By creating memorable brands, studying consumer behavior, and helping invent a new form of entertainment, Procter and Gamble transformed advertising forever. But advertising could convince people to try to buy a product only once. Keeping customers for generations required something else. Advertising sold products, but innovation kept customers coming back.
You know what, Kat? I really need to stop and take a break and reflect on my childhood. And I'm going to drink a Coke.
I'm going
Um,
to just take a Pepsi.
how about this? I'm going to share a smile. No, you don't know that. That's a Coke commercial.
It is a Coke commercial, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We'll be right back. So by the middle of the 20th century, Procter& Gamble had grown far beyond its humble beginnings as a maker of soap and candles. The company had embraced scientific research, transformed advertising, and earned the trust of millions of consumers. But its greatest achievement may have been something much simpler. It created products that solved everyday problems. And by the way, if you hear a difference in my voice, Kat and I, we kind of break these up. And yesterday, when we were recording, my allergies had taken hold, kind of had me sounding, what would you say, horrible?
He was in a chokehold with his allergies.
A chokehold. That's actually a really good, that's a good analogy.
You're welcome. Today, though, Procter and Gamble owns many of the world's most recognizable brands. In fact, there's a good chance that if you walked through your home right now, you'd find products from the company in nearly every room. The laundry room, the kitchen, the bathroom, even the nursery. Really, they're everywhere. Rather than trying to make one product for everyone, Procter& Gamble built a family of specialized brands, each designed to tackle a specific need.
Let's start with the laundry room. In 1946, Procter& Gamble, well, it introduced Tide, and it completely changed the way Americans wash their clothes. Before Tide, many soaps struggled to remove grease and stubborn stains, especially in hard water. Laundry often required soaking, scrubbing, or repeated washing to get clothes fully clean. Tide was different. I can't use Tide. It breaks me out because it's really harsh. And I had to go see a dermatologist to figure out it was Tide. And I know my dad was allergic to it, but
The more you know.
yeah, absolutely.
It was developed after years of research, and it became the world's first heavy duty synthetic laundry detergent designed for household use. And unlike traditional soaps made primarily from animal fats, Tide used synthetic cleaning agents that worked more effectively in a wider variety of water conditions. It lifted dirt away from fabric instead of simply loosening it. The results were so dramatic that many people believed their white clothes had never looked brighter.
Hmm. Tide quickly became America's best-selling laundry detergent, a position it has held for much of its history. The company continued building its laundry portfolio with Gain. It's known for its distinctive fragrances and Downy, a fabric softener introduced in 1960 that made clothes feel softer, reduce static, and left fabric smelling fresh.
Now there's the kitchen and the rest of the home. One of Procter& Gamble's most recognizable cleaning products is Dawn dishwashing liquid. Produced in 1973, Dawn earned a reputation for cutting through grease better than many competing products. And that grease-fighting ability eventually made it famous for something far beyond washing dishes.
Following major oil spills, the rescue organizations discovered that Dawn was remarkable and effective at removing the oil from the feathers of birds and fur of marine animals without causing, excessive harm to their skin or feathers. Imagine volunteers gently cleaning oil covered ducks, pelicans, and sea otters with Dawn. It became familiar after environmental disasters such as the Exxon Valdez spill in 1989 and the Deepwater Horizon spill in 2010. Today, many wildlife rescue groups they continue to use it as part of a carefully managed cleaning product. And if you look at any bottle of Dawn and you see those rubber gloves with the little duck, that's an actual picture.
Mm-hmm. Procter& Gamble also expanded home cleaning products like Cascade dishwasher detergent, helping automate one of the least popular household chores. Mr. Clean, recognizable by his bald head, muscular build, and gold hoop earring, became one of the most famous advertising mascots in America, which was introduced in 1958. He symbolized strength and sparkling clean homes.
Then came Swiffer, introduced in 1999. Instead of dragging around heavy buckets and string mops, consumers could quickly pick up dust and dirt with disposable cleaning pads. And it changed how many people thought about cleaning floors.
And in 1996, Procter& Gamble introduced Febreze, a product that tackled something many cleaners didn't: odor. And rather than simply covering unpleasant smells with perfume, Febreze used chemistry to help trap and neutralize odor molecules. It quickly became a household favorite for furniture, carpets, clothing, and automobiles.
Febreze is amazing.
I like Febreze.
I love it. The company also transformed life for parents. Before the 1960s, parents relied heavily on cloth diapers. Ooh. They had to be washed, dried, folded, reused countless times. This was really a labor intensive and time consuming thing to do. After years of research, inspired in part by inventor Victor Mills, a Procter& and Gamble engineer and grandfather looking for an easier solution, the company introduced Pampers in 1961. Thank you, Victor Mills.
Now, disposable diapers revolutionized childcare. Instead of constant washing and pinning cloth diapers, parents could simply change and dispose of them. Pampers quickly became one of the company's most successful brands and fundamentally changed parenting around the world. Later, Love's offered another trusted diaper option, giving families more choices while continuing to improve absorbent materials, comfort, and leak protection.
Let's move over to the beauty aisle, okay? Because Procter& Gamble built brands focused on healthier hair and skin. Pantene, it became known for promoting stronger, shinier hair through advanced conditioning formulas. Head and Shoulders, it was introduced in the 1960s and became the world's leading anti-dandruff shampoo. It just used scientifically tested ingredients to fight the fungus responsible for many causes of dandruff. And then Herbal Essence appealed to consumers looking for the botanical inspired hair care. While Olay introduced in South Africa in the 50s and later acquired by Procter& Gamble, it became one of the world's best-known skincare brands. These products reflected decades of research into hair structure, scalp health, moisturization, and aging skin.
Personal care became another cornerstone of the company's success. When Procter & Gamble acquired Gillette in 2005, it added one of the world's most iconic razor brands to its portfolio. And Gillette had long been synonymous with shaving innovation, introducing multi-blade cartridges, pivoting razor heads, and advanced lubricating strips. The acquisition also brought Venus, which is a popular razor line designed specifically for women.
Other familiar names followed. Old Spice, originally launched in 1937. I did not know Old Spice was that old.
I knew it had to be pretty old.
I remember when Old Spice was a big deal when I was in middle school, but after that, high school was like, dude, you're using Old Spice? That's like your grandfather's aftershave?
I mean, for you, it definitely was your grandfather's aftershave.
Oh my God. It reinvented itself through memorable advertising campaigns and became one of the best-selling men's grooming brands in America.
To add on to that, though, my grandpa definitely used Old Spice as well. Like, so I had one grandpa that was born in 1913 or 1912 or something like that. Secret also helped popularize antiperspirants formulated specifically for women, while Always and Tampax became trusted names in feminine hygiene. Oral-B, known for toothbrushes and dental care products, reinforced Procter& Gamble's commitment to oral health alongside brands like Crest.
Across all of these brands, one thing remained consistent: scientific research. And today, Procter& Gamble employs thousands of scientists, engineers, chemists, and researchers working in laboratories around the world. Before a new product reaches your store shelf, it often undergoes years of development, extensive safety evaluations, performance testing, and consumer feedback studies. Researchers analyze everything from stain chemistry and fabric fibers to skin sensitivity, hair biology, and fragrance preferences.
The company also holds tens of thousands of patents, protecting innovations developed over decades of research. And these inventions have helped improve everything from absorbent diaper materials and razor blade technology to cleaning formulas and dental products. So, what began as a small partnership in Cincinnati has grown into a truly global enterprise.
And from here on out, I'm just going to say P&G instead of Procter& and Gamble. Their products are sold in more than 180 countries and territories, reaching billions of consumers every year. While product names and packaging may vary slightly from one market to another, there's one thing that's consistent. The company's goal remains remarkably similar to William Procter and James Gamble that they pursued nearly 2 centuries ago: create dependable products that improve everyday life.
Whether someone is doing laundry in Brazil, brushing their teeth in Japan, washing dishes in Germany, or changing a baby's diaper in South Africa, there's a good chance that P&G products a part of that routine. It's an extraordinary legacy for a company that began with one candle maker and one soap maker and a simple suggestion from a father in law. But success on this scale doesn't come without challenges, right? It also brings criticism and new challenges.
Let's get into some of those. No company survives for nearly 2 centuries without facing challenges. While P&G has built a reputation of innovation, quality, and trusted brands, the history also includes moments of criticism, controversy, and difficult decisions. Like many global corporations, P&G's story is not just about success. It's also about adapting to changing expectations and responding to concerns from consumers, governments, and environmental organizations.
And one of the biggest challenges facing P&G today is plastic packaging.
Yeah, because we did a whole thing about plastic, right?
Right.
It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, and you walk through almost any home and you will likely find dozens of products that rely on plastic. Shampoo bottles, detergent containers, toothpaste tubes, deodorant packaging, and disposable razors. Plastic has many advantages. It keeps products safe, lightweight, affordable, and easy to transport, but it's also created one of the world's biggest environmental challenges.
Millions of tons of plastic waste, they enter our landfills, rivers, and oceans each and every year. This really raises the concern about pollution, wildlife, and long-term environmental challenges. Like many consumer goods companies, P&G has really responded by setting sustainable goals that really focus on reducing waste and improving packaging. The company has worked to increase the use of recycled materials, reduce unnecessary plastic, and design packaging that is easier to recycle. Engineers, well, they are also exploring new solutions, including more concentrated products that require less packaging and alternative materials that create less environmental impact. Batteries, they're now starting to be packaged in cardboard packaging, which,
I know, and that's pretty cool.
yeah, there's a lot of different changes going around, but I do agree. Plastic is bad, and it breaks down into these. We covered it in our plastic episode that they break down into these microparticles that fish eat, we eat the fish, so on and so forth, and it's just bad stuff.
Everybody has microplastics in their bloodstream these days.
Mm, I'm probably made of. You could just call me Mr. Plastic at this point. Sorry. No.
Another issue that has drawn attention is palm oil. And palm oil is a common ingredient used in many everyday products, including soaps, shampoos, cosmetics, and cleaning products. Companies use it because it's efficient to produce, versatile, and helps create the texture and performance consumers expect. However, palm oil production has been connected to deforestation, especially in parts of Southeast Asia. Clearing forests for palm plantations has contributed to habitat loss for animals such as orangutans and other endangered species, while also affecting global climate change.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
Mm,
I had to do, I did a report on Madagascar one time, and it's pretty bad there too.
mm. Okay. Add it to the shopping list. Environmental groups have encouraged companies to make sure their palm oil, well, it comes from responsible sources. P&G has worked with suppliers and certification organizations. This is to improve tracking of its palm oil supply chain and increase the use of responsible sourced materials. While some organizations recognize these efforts, others continue to argue that companies need to move faster and do more. I think moving faster in this environment that we're in today makes a lot of sense because everything happens so fast. Yeah, companies need to try to keep up because technology is ever changing.
I mean, not only that, but w- when we realized that plastic became a problem, it was long before now. Okay. they had a chance to also start changing some things then.
Agreed.
I
Took
think it's
it
a long time coming. And so I do agree that it should move a lot faster because, oof,
innovation.
yes.
Okay.
Another long running debate involves animal testing. For much of the 20th century, animal testing was common throughout the consumer products industry. Companies used it to evaluate whether cosmetics, cleaning products, and personal care items were safe before they reached customers. And over time, public attitudes changed. Animal welfare organizations and many consumers began questioning whether these tests were necessary, especially as new scientific alternatives became available.
P&G, it has invested in developing alternatives, including computer modeling, laboratory methods in using human cells, and other advanced testing technologies. The company has stated that it supports reducing animal testing and using alternative methods whenever scientifically accepted options are available. However, the issue remains complicated because regulations in some countries they have historically required certain types of testing.
So, environmental concerns also extend beyond individual products. A company operating on a global scale must consider energy use, water consumption, manufacturing emissions, and transportation. Producing billions of products every year requires enormous resources. P&G has created sustainability programs focused on reducing carbon emissions, improving energy efficiency, conserving water, and increasing the use of renewable energy. The company regularly reports on its environmental goals and progress.
But the challenges facing P&G, well, they're not just environmental. The way people shop has changed dramatically. For decades, P&G, well, they competed mainly against other major household brands. Today, it also faces competition from store brands, which are often less expensive. Alternatives offered by retailers such as supermarkets and big box chains. Many consumers who once automatically chose national brands, they're starting to pinch pennies and compare prices and be more careful in what they're choosing, especially during economic uncertainty.
Shopping habits have also changed because of online retail. Consumers no longer discover products only by walking through store aisles. They now shop throughout websites and mobile apps where companies must compete for attention on digital screens instead of store shelves. This has forced P&G to rethink everything from packaging and marketing to delivery and customer engagement. The COVID-19 pandemic created another major challenge.
Beginning in 2020, companies around the world face supply chain disruptions. Factories slowed down, shipping delays increased, transportation costs rose, and shortages affected many industries. At the same time, demand for certain household products exploded as people, well, started to stock up on cleaning supplies, paper products, and personal care items because you couldn't find toilet paper during this time.
I didn't have that problem. The problem I had was trying to go back to work
You
with a
know,
brand new baby. Like,
I didn't have the problem with the toilet paper either, but I can remember there was no store around that I knew of that had toilet paper for whatever reason. I guess people were staying home more. I don't know.
it's usually the milk, bread, and toilet paper that goes when there's something tragic that happens.
In all honesty, here in South Georgia, when they mention snow, it's milk, bread, and ground beef. Do you know why the ground beef goes?
Why?
Everybody's making chili. What they're doing with the milk and bread, I have no clue because if the power goes out, the milk's gonna spoil. Maybe they're using the bread to just like make milk sandwiches. I have no clue. But anyway,
P&G had to balance increased demand with shortages of materials, packaging, and transportation resources. Like many manufacturers, the company had to quickly adjust its operations to keep products available for consumers. Now, inflation has created another challenge in recent years. Rising costs for raw materials, fuel, labor, and transportation have forced companies to make difficult choices. Raising prices can help cover expenses, but higher prices may also cause customers to choose cheaper alternatives.
P&G has also experienced marketing controversies. In today's world of social media, companies face immediate reactions to advertising campaigns, product decisions, and public statements. A message that receives praise from one group, well, it can really receive criticism from another. That's the world we live in. However, social media also provides companies with direct feedback from customers, complaints, reviews, and suggestions. They can help businesses identify problems and improve products.
Throughout its history, P&G has responded to challenges through research, innovation, and adaptation. The company continues to redesign packaging, develop more efficient products, invest in sustainability, and work with scientists and organizations to address environmental and social concerns. No company serving billions of customers across the world will ever be free from criticism. Expectations continue to change, and businesses must constantly adapt to new technology, new science, and new values.
But for nearly 190 years, P&G has survived.
And one of the strangest chapters in P&G history involves its old logo.
Yeah, for many years, the company used a moon and stars logo featuring a man in the moon surrounded by stars. But in the 70s and continuing into the 90s, false rumors spread claiming the logo contained hidden satanic symbols. These claims, well, they became part of a larger wave of misinformation known as the Satanic Panic, and we're going to do an episode on that in the future. The rumors, they were completely false, obviously.
P&G denied the accusations, and the company eventually replaced the logo in 1991. The controversy became an example of how quickly rumors can spread and how difficult it can be for companies to fight misinformation once it takes hold.
And another fascinating part of P&G's history is its extensive archives. The company has preserved nearly 2 centuries of documents, advertisements, photographs, and product records. All of these materials provide a unique look not only at the company's history, but also about how American homes, technology, and consumer habits have changed over time. They should start a museum. I would go.
When William Procter and James Gamble started their small soap and candle business in Cincinnati, they're not trying to create a worldwide empire. They're simply two immigrants trying to build a better future. But through innovation, scientific research, smart marketing, and a commitment to solving everyday problems, their company grew into one of the most recognizable businesses in history. And chances are, tomorrow morning, you'll use a Procter& Gamble product without even thinking about it. Because for nearly 200 years, P&G hasn't just been selling products, it's been shaping the way we live.
I did not think this one was going to be this long.
I don't know.
Who knew
I'm
there
trying
was
to
so,
avoid umbrella and corporations at this point in my life.
but who knew there was so much history behind Procter and Gamble?
I certainly didn't.
I did not either, honestly and truly. And I think we missed a factoid about the moon and stars logo, but it just goes to show you how rumors can spread quickly, especially misinformation, you know. Hey, if you would like to support this podcast, the best way you can do that is to tell a friend.
And help get the word out. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at Patreon or take advantage of our sponsors, and those links are in the show notes.
As always, Kat and I want to say thank you, whether you've been with us from day one or just tuning in.
Thank you. Join the Facebook group at Info on the Go
Over there, you can get to know us.
or ask us a question.
But whatever you do, stop and hit that follow button wherever you're listening to this podcast.
You can also send us some fan mail using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
Leaving a review, it really does help others find us. But if you would like, you can send me or Kat an email directly at
infoonthegopodcast@gmail.com.
and you can find all of this in the show notes. Till next time.
Stay curious.
How did we get on track?
I don't know, but we did.
I don't know. Anyway, peace. Peace out.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Hey, listen up, all of my workforce friends out there, whether you're ranchers, farmers, or you just need a pair of good leather gloves, look no further than Bare Knuckles, the best leather gloves ever made, featuring a patent design crafted for natural curve of the fingers. These gloves deliver a perfect fit, superior protection, and all-day comfort. Made from premium leather, right now get an exclusive 15% off, and you can find that at buybareknuckles.com, but make sure you use our code INFOGO at checkout. You can find that link in the show notes. Upgrade your hands, and remember, every purchase, well, it supports the show, so thank you.
If you love unforgettable treats, you've got to try Molly B's gourmet cookies. These aren't your average cookies. Molly B's brings bold, artisan crafted cookies straight to your pantry. We're talking chocolate, cherry, and amaretto and be cordial. Earl Grey, lavender, white chocolate, and lemon glaze in the tea. Even maple, bacon, whiskey, and white chocolate in the Boss Man. Founded by a single mom from Alaska, Molly Bees has become a national sensation. You get 10% off any product using our code INFOGO at mollybees.com. Find the link in the show notes.